Hey there! Thank you for tuning in to the Marketeers Adventures podcast. My name is Ellen Colau, and today I welcome Line Aasen. Line has a great interest in the startup ecosystem and works at a venture capital doing marketing and PR. Hi, Line.
Hello, I'm happy to be here. Excited for our conversation.
Me too. Can you share a bit about your journey in marketing and what first drew you to this field?
Yeah, sure. So currently I'm overseeing and handling all marketing and PR and comms at a Danish VC firm called Dreamcraft Ventures. So I do a little bit of everything, super generalist roles. So everything from events, content, copy, websites, social media, a lot on LinkedIn. So yeah, a little bit of everything. So I do that for the fund. And then I also help a lot of our portfolio founders with PR, branding, and positioning. So it's kind of a split up role. So I spend most of my time on the fund side, but then also supporting our portfolio. So it's a lot of work with the B2B software founders and startups at the early stages. So that's where I'm at now. And then before that, I was at Group M, so a huge agency here in the Nordics. So a very different type of company. We were sitting, I don't know, 700 people here in Copenhagen, and I was doing specifically SEO and copywriting. So I had a lot of fun there, worked with the biggest brands in the Nordics and Europe. So I've seen that side of marketing as well, but definitely my heart is in the startup ecosystem. So on the side, I was working with different startups, incubators, accelerators, and also Global Startup Awards, which is an award show for the startup ecosystem. So very much kind of touch ground in the whole startup ecosystem here in Denmark and the Nordics. And yeah, my background is actually in media and social entrepreneurship and management. And I've just kind of gone that route on my education to kind of get a more holistic view of like businesses and entrepreneurship. And then on the side, kind of worked with different marketing companies and marketing roles.
Which would you say are the key experiences that have shaped your career?
Oh, good question. I really enjoyed my time in the first startup I joined. It was called Aerofit, so a sport tech company here in Copenhagen. And when I joined, we were maybe 8, 9 people. So it was super early stages. We were 3 people in a marketing team, kind of figuring out the whole like branding from scratch, setting up the marketing plan from scratch. So we were at point zero and had to build like the whole foundation of the company. And it was really that kind of typical startup vibe. We were sitting at a co-working space, super hands-on with the founder, and yeah, like I said, like building from zero and kind of creating the brand and kind of everything from the tone of voice, uh, all different channels, the visuals, everything. We did the first photo shoot with athletes, which was super fun to work with the athletic side of the business as well. So that was really like what got me super interested in working in the startup ecosystem.
Hmm. And yeah, venture capital now. Venture capitals are a bit of it's a unique environment. Some would say mystery world. So how is it doing marketing for a you said it's a bit divided between doing marketing for the venture capital and also supporting the startups. So yeah, how is it doing marketing in that environment?
Yeah, so it's quite funny. Like I mentioned, like I've been all around the startup ecosystem, but and venture capital were kind of the last puzzle in the puzzle piece in the puzzle. Um, and yeah, it's a whole different world. Like everything from how they're talking, the different words, the different abbreviations, everything. So when I came in, I spent the first couple of months just understanding what we were doing and understanding the language and understanding how do we actually do marketing, because it's also different in a way that we have three different audiences. So we have our investors, which we call LPs. So they invest in our fund. And then we have founders, and then that we invest in. And then we also have partners, because we do a lot of co-investing in companies. So we do it together with other VC funds that have different strengths than we have. So you always need to balance those three audiences. In some years you focus heavily on like the fundraising side, so speaking to the investors. Other times it's more focused on the founders and creating a good pipeline and attracting the best founders. But it's always this issue that you need to balance everything out. And like you said, it's also this, how much time do you spend on like promoting the fund itself, and how much do you spend on promoting the founders? I think also VC has changed I've been in VC for 4 years now. So it's changed a bit, and now it's a lot about promoting the founders, promoting your portfolio founders and what they're doing and how you're supporting them to actually promote your fund. It's a bit like other B2B software companies are kind of highlighting their case studies and their clients to be able to sell their products.
So you're helping startups with founder branding, startup branding. Can you tell a bit more about that?
Yeah. So yeah, I recently did a project with one of our companies where we looked at like their value proposition and positioning. So this was a founder team of 2 people, not much marketing experience, which we see, like we invest in pre-seed and seed stages. So a lot of the times it's just the 2 founders or the 3 founders, or maybe a team of 5. And they don't have like in-house marketing experts. So I come in often creating some kind of framework for them or give them some kind of tool so they can figure out, okay, how do we actually position ourselves? And how do we build our website up so that it attracts the right audience and it promotes our product the best type of way? So I also look a lot over the websites to the companies that we invest in and give feedback and kind of have these ongoing conversations with the founders on how do we actually position your brand the best kind of way, and how do we also differentiate yourself compared to the other competitors. So that's one side. And then I also spend a lot of my time on PR. So when we have done the investment, we kind of set up a strategy of how are we going to announce the company. They're often coming from stealth mode. And how do we also like incorporate the round? Do we even want to announce the round, or should we wait until later when they're again in fundraising mode? So it's always this like strategic talk of when do we actually announce the company and the round, and how do we do it the best kind of way? Do we go for like the big tech media, or do we go more in like the niche media to talk more towards their potential clients? Or is a combination? And how much time do we actually spend on this? Because these founders, they have so much to do. They work so many hours, and I'm just there to support them in the best kind of way so that they can be efficient and also spend just most of the time actually building the product and talking to customers.
Do you see many startups starting with the product and not having product market fit directly in mind because they don't really have marketing knowledge?
I would say no, because that's something that our investment team kind of also looks at when they're doing their due diligence and looking into the company. So they go through everything from like the team setup, is there traction, the market, the business model. So they kind of get like a very holistic view on a company. So, and I would say like, while Dreamcraft might look like a very cool and young and fun VC, we're also quite conservative investors. So we are very focused on like the numbers, and at early stages, traction might not mean a lot of revenue. It might mean just that they have attracted the right talent, they have built the right team, and they have built quite a lot of the product, the software, already at an early stage. And then we come in and support them in like building the company and then taking them to the Series A round.
That's good.
Yeah.
I've heard from others that many venture capitals kind of push founders a lot to the point of burnout. And yeah, that's not great. So I wanted to hear your opinion as an insider, how you see things, and yeah, how are startups treated?
Yeah, I think it's a super relevant topic, and it's something that we see more and more, that VCs and kind of the whole startup ecosystem is actually asking themselves. I think the focus on like mental health and mental well-being is a super relevant and hot topic in the VC world, and I do think that to some extent that is also our responsibility, or at least give the founders the tools that they can use. Like I know a lot of VCs are providing coaches, or they're providing them sparring partners, or it might be an app so they can do some kind of meditation or breath work. I also know that like stereotypical founder type, especially when it comes to VCs, because there is also a difference between a startup and a venture. Not all startups are venture cases. These cases are supposed to scale super fast in a short amount of time. So yes, that means that they do need to spend a lot of time building the product. And I think a lot of founders in this space is kind of on the verge of burnout, and it's also both ours and their responsibility to be aware of it and also support them as best as we can. We have an in-house people and culture expert, Nico, who is taking time every month to just talk to the founders, and not only talk about how the business is going, but how are you doing as a person? Because like you said, they cannot, if they burn out, they're not able to build a product. They're not able to build a business. So he's just talking about how it's going, how is life, and having that like outside person from the investment team, I think is something that we have found out is working well, because they do have that feeling that I'm not talking to my direct investor right now. I'm talking to a person that actually has my best interest in mind. But for example, yesterday I was also at a workshop with Tech Barbecue, a big tech conference here in Copenhagen. And one of the topics that we talked about was mental health. How is it going to look in the next year, in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years? And how do we make sure that we actually spend some time on educating the whole ecosystem on founders' mental health? But I also think it goes to the investors. It's a lot of talk about investors also burning out. I myself, I kind of find like the biohacking way. So kind of how can we do biohacks to actually take care of our both physical and mental health? So everything from like breath work to sleep and sauna, cold exposure. I think these are kind of the ways that we should try to implement in the startup ecosystem, because like I said, they're not simple hacks, but they're hacks. They feel a little bit more like, okay, I can take 2 minutes doing a little bit of breath work. I can take 30 minutes in a sauna. I feel like it's a little bit more a better way to ease into taking care of your physical and mental health.
Yeah, and these are things that might take a bit longer to see the effects, right?
Yes.
So what does success mean to you at this stage? And how are you working towards it?
Oh, it's also a big question because you mean success for me or the company or
For
founders?
you, for you.
I think for me, my journey at Dreamcraft also started, like I said, 4 years ago when we were actually called Bumble. So I came in and did the full rebranding, everything from the visual identity, tone of voice, the whole full brand, new website, new social media, everything. So for me, I'm very attached to the brand. I love branding. I think that's a huge competitive advantage to building a good brand for a VC, for a startup, for any company. I think it's something that takes time. And like I said yesterday, I had a person come up to me and said, "Oh, Dreamcraft is one of the VCs that I really want to get on board my startup." And these kind of interactions where people really understand who we are, what we're doing, and they recognize the brand. Like I remember when we did the full rebranding in the beginning, no one knew who we were, and we had to say, we were formerly Bumble, but we don't have to do that anymore. So people really understand our name and what we're doing, and I think that's very success for me, what it means. I still think that we need to work on how we differentiate ourselves in the VC industry, because the issue here is that our what we're doing and why we're doing it is more or less the same. We invest in startups. That's what we're doing. And how we differentiate ourselves is on how. So how are we investing and how are we supporting the portfolio companies beyond just the financial support? So is there like a organizational building track? Are you offering PR support? All of these things. So we're still working on kind of how do we communicate this in the best possible way and make it super clear to founders that when we come on board, you don't only get the investment, but you also get this support team that can help you scale your business.
If you could go back to the start of your career, what advice would you give to your younger self, as with the knowledge that you have now?
Good question. I think in how I've gone about in my professional career is a lot learning by doing. I'm a one person marketing team at Dreamcraft. That's often the case in a VC or a startup. So yeah, I love learning by doing, but in the last 2 years, I've been fortunate enough to have a brand and PR advisor on board, and also I've worked with a mentor the last year. So having that person that can kind of come in, they talk your marketing language. You can kind of get that outside perspective on what you're doing and kind of go from not only thinking about your day-to-day operations, but also thinking more strategically and long term. I think that has really helped me a lot, both on my own development, but also how we have developed the brand and marketing in the company. So I think like seeking those mentors and advisor from even an earlier stage. I wish I had discovered like mentorship programs way earlier, but I think like taking advantage of what is already out there and also like go on LinkedIn and just ask your network. I'm looking for a mentor. I think I've seen that quite a lot lately that people are seeking mentors and using LinkedIn as a tool. So I think I would try to do that even more early because I gain so much more insight and it's so much more fun to also have someone to talk to when you're a one person marketing team.
Totally agree. Yeah. I wish I had done that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes I was feeling like I didn't really know what I was doing, but also no one else in the team knew. So someone external would be very helpful. That of course knew what they were doing. So last time we met, we talked about the portfolio career, the term portfolio career, and yeah, what that means and what it looks like. Could you explain what the portfolio career means to you and how it's influencing your professional journey?
Yes. I think the concept of portfolio career is super exciting. It's something that I come across, what was it, like a few weeks ago. Um, for me, it's really embracing all your interest and not think of hobbies and interests as just hobbies, something you do on the side for fun, but something that you also bring into your professional career. I think I saw on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, a guy that was a consultant, and now he had decided to be a bike tour guide for a half a year or a year in Spain, and I thought that was such a cool idea, and he made a really good LinkedIn post about how a lot of his colleagues had said that this is such a step back in your career. Why don't you like keep climbing the ladder? You want to reach that like partner level in the consultancy firm. But for him, it was like a super good way of like getting a career break, sort of, while making money, while like embracing one of his passions and hobbies. And who knows, like at the end of that year, maybe he could try to combine both his passion for his work and for his hobby into a new role. So I think I saw that one, and then there was also a talk about the career portfolio that yeah, I started to look more into. And like I mentioned before, I always like enjoyed doing marketing, writing copy, creating content, doing events. But I also have a really big interest in social entrepreneurship and doing good with brands. And then there's the biohacking and mental health angle. I'm also an athlete. I spend a lot of my time playing tennis. So I'm kind of now trying to figure out, okay, how can I not only think of my interests and passions as something I do for fun, but how can I actually bring it into my professional career? And there's so many ways of doing that now. Like I'm starting a blog. I'm trying to do more speaking opportunities to bring like biohacking for mental health and performance out to the startup ecosystem. And I'm trying to figure ways of how can I actually bring it into maybe into VC one day.
So you've been gathering all the pieces from your past experiences. Do you see them leading anywhere? Do you have a big goal?
I don't know. It's like I said, like I'm trying to use LinkedIn a lot. Also, I think is a really good tool if you start using it the correct way. You can really like play with the algorithm and kind of get those posts that you really learn from and you gain something from in your feed. And I want to start talking more about the biohacking. As I mentioned, I'm also starting to write a blog about like health and wellness and biohacking because I love to write about this. And instead of just like writing it on a note in a notebook, I might as well just use the opportunity that platforms like Medium and LinkedIn are offering so that I can kind of spread the word. And if I like to do it just for myself, I might as well put it out there so that maybe someone else learn from it or get inspired. So that's kind of my little side project at the moment. And let's see if it leads to something else one day in the future.
Yeah. Um, Maybe you've already touched a bit on this, but what advice would you give to other people that are interested in creating a portfolio career?
Oh, I think I love Nikes Just Do It. Um, I also have friends that are now doing like breathwork instructor course, or they're doing like a training instructor course on the side. I would also love to do like a personal trainer course one day. So kind of just like follow your passion and just do it. Like I know myself, I've been talking about doing something like this for a long time, and then when I see people around me that are actually like taking the step to actually sign up and go to the courses, that just brings me a lot of inspiration to do it myself. So I think a lot of the time we just kind of fall into this like automatic trap that we just kind of go on autopilot. Like it's super comfortable to live in here in the Nordics, and you have your job, and you're meeting people, and you're kind of going on with your life like you always do, but kind of stop and think sometimes, is this really where I see myself in 10 years? I did an exercise with one of my friends. Yeah, this is a few months ago, where we took one route where we said, okay, if I follow this path, where am I in 10 years? And then we did another path where we say, okay, imagine I would do something totally different. Where would I be in 10 years? And it was a super fun exercise because it kind of opened up your mind to like new opportunities and possibilities. And I think for both of us, we kind of said, I would love to land somewhere in the middle. Like I want to kind of, yes, keep growing and keep doing what I'm doing because obviously I like it, but I also would like to do something different once in a while. And I think like that career portfolio kind of speaks so much to that. Always evaluate like where am I, where I'm going, and where would I like to see myself. And I mean, I think a lot of people have also seen lately how you can use like ChatGPT to do these kind of things, like describe your dream life and then give me a day in the life of that future self, or like how do I get there? And I think these tools are just, we should use them as inspiration, and then also not only as inspiration but also follow through. Again, like just do it.
Follow through is important.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need some life designing to bring some more life design in our life, and know where we want to go and figure out what skills, what we need to do to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also like be open-minded. Like reach out to people in your network on LinkedIn that you get inspired by and ask them if you can buy them a coffee one day. I feel like people are so open when you just ask them, and in worst case you just get a no and you find someone else. I think just having a 30-minute coffee chat with someone that you admire is can be a super eye-opening and inspirational time. So I think people should just reach out. And like I said, worst case, they just say no and you go on. Nothing bad really happened.
Yes, good point. Many times we limit ourselves. We have assumptions about how things work that are not true many times. Um, yeah, let's go to the future of marketing now. How what are the biggest changes that you expect to see in marketing over the next few years?
I think we're at a super excited time, mostly because of AI. I mean, that's what we're talking about all the time and all the tools that are popping up. I think also as marketing professionals, we should be the ones kind of the ones at the front line, the people that are like testing out new AI tools, whether that like copy creation or is image creation or is it's video or more optimization. We should really spend some time each week, almost each day, to kind of educate ourselves on how to use these tools, because they're only going to get better and better, and we need to find ways of utilizing them in a most effective way. So I think that that's a big thing, and I think those that are saying that this is not the future, or I'm just gonna write all my copy myself, yes, that's good, but imagine how good these like LLM tools have gotten the last few years. Imagine in 5 years and in 10 years. So like we're at this point, I think we're quite lucky because we're at the beginning and we can kind of still go about our days as we kind of used to, but we can also implement these AI tools to be more efficient and be better. Like we're also recently looked at a tool that is like giving you uh, images and animations that are tailored to your brand. And I think these tools are so good already, and I'm super excited to see where the future is heading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like the world will be very different in just a few years. Which are the top skills that you think marketeers should have so that they're not irrelevant in a few years?
Good question. It's like I said, like these like being able to use AI tools in the best possible way to be efficient, but also kind of stay on brand is a big thing. I think we also are going to see much more like personal branding. Like on the VC and founder side, we see a lot about like founder-led growth. So founders like being the face of the company, and they're talking about like how to use the product and like more about the industry and the market on LinkedIn, but also on Instagram. There are a few really great examples. So I think we're gonna see that a lot more. So kind of more prioritizing, also spending time on growing your personal brand is gonna be huge. I think also like on the event side, I've seen the last 4 years we were going from like huge events, like 200, 300 people just gathering and networking, to now events being way smaller. And we are, for example, doing a lot of breakfast events where we invite exactly the target audience that we want to reach, or the group that we want to bring into our community. So way smaller events, maybe it's dinners where it's just 10 people, or small, very specific seminars where it's like maximum 40 people. So these small gatherings and creating communities, I think is going to be super important. And I see also this like community-led growth, especially on like the D2C side. You see all of these brands like Bareen, for example, not only selling clothes, but they're selling experiences, and they're creating this community that people want to be part of, and also kind of going hand in hand with like the whole career portfolio. You see so many sports brands doing like sauna sessions, they're doing running clubs, so kind of thinking a bit beyond what is like the traditional marketing. How can we actually bring our target audience together and kind of bond and connect over an activity that they like to do? So it's not only just talking about and pushing your product, but how can we actually bring people together, learn from them, get their feedback, so that we can actually improve our products that they obviously like to use because they're coming together. So I think this like community aspect is gonna kind of be combined with marketing, which I think is super good. And again, they don't have to be like 200 people communities. Maybe it's like a group of 20 or 30 people spending time together.
So AI, personal branding, and in-person events.
Yeah.
Right? With in-person events, I was thinking, do you see companies becoming more localized in a way so that it's easier to build community?
Oh, good
Or
question.
how do you build community in that way when it's international?
Yeah. Had a talk with a sports brand also. They were in the cycling field, and they were kind of like, okay, how do we grow the community on ground? They're Spain based, but how do we also kind of bring that kind of community feeling, like when they're not here, when they're not on vacation? How can we bring that to the Nordics, to the Alps, where it's a lot of people cycling? So there it, we were discussing like kind of like a hybrid model. So how can we actually keep the connections online when people are not meeting in person? And again, it's like super difficult. Like we all know, like during the pandemic and everything, everyone was creating Slack communities and online communities. But I think this combination of like meeting in person, create those like personal connections, that makes it so much easier to, yeah, jump on a call with someone that you met, uh, or kind of asking that question in a Slack community, because you have that kind of confident that someone is going to answer you. Because I think that's, it's like a fear that some people have, that I don't want to put something out because I don't know how it's going to be perceived, or I don't know how it's going to perform, because we're so used to this performance metrics on social media. How many likes do you get? But sometimes it's that one-to-one person connection that is enough. But yeah, it's definitely, it's going to be interesting, like you said, like how do you actually, are brands going to become more localized, or can we actually see the bigger brands actually foster connections? And it's one thing with the bigger brands that have the big budgets to do it, but how can a small startup do it?
Yeah. So if what advice do you have for anyone who would like to get into the venture capital world?
Networking. I
Networking.
think that's a big thing. I think like going to the events that are here, like you have Tech Barbecue also have like the tech talent program, where you can come in and learn, and you can volunteer and kind of get a free tickets. The tickets to these conferences are often super expensive. We see it all also now at Slush in Helsinki, super expensive, but there's an opportunity to volunteer and kind of get there and get your time to network with people. In Copenhagen, we also have town halls where you can meet a lot of people, and yeah, I think that that's kind of the best way in. Get to know the people. Keep your eye out for like internships or positions that are opening up. But yeah, we very much about the people. It's a people business. Even though we invest in companies, we invest in people. So we like big, good people connections. Um, do I have anything
Where
else?
do we find these town hall events? Are they posted on LinkedIn or?
Yes, I think LinkedIn is your best friend
Hmm.
in finding events. And like I said, connect with people, connect with ecosystem people, but don't just send them a connection. Write a little note. Tell them why you would like to connect with them, because then you're way more likely to have your request accepted. Yeah. But I think also like we did an event at Tech Barbecue in our office for 150, 160 investors, and we had a group of 9 volunteers joining us. And I mean, I obviously have them now in my network, and I know they're super eager to get into VC, so they might be some of the first people that I reach out to when we're looking for someone, because I know that they are out there and they're eager and they would like to do a good job.
Thank you. Yeah, great advice. Do you have any last remarks before we close? Anything else that you would like to share?
I think one thing about the VC industry is that whenever someone think about it, it's a lot about the investors, and you need to have a finance degree, you need to have like a business degree to get into VC. But I don't think that is the case, because you have the investor side of VC, but you also have the platform side, which is often called, at Dreamcraft, we call it founder enablement, because we enable founders to build their companies. So yeah, like I said, we have a people and culture, organizational building profile. We have marketing. A lot of VCs, they also have community building, or more growth roles. So there is also space for those that not only are interested in the finances of a company. It's a way more holistic industry that kind of looks at companies as a whole, and how can we actually support them in growing. So I think that's something that people might not know. I didn't know it, even though I'd been in the ecosystem for years. And when I got into the VC ecosystem on the support side, I found that there's a huge community, both in the Nordics, in Copenhagen, but also in Europe and US, and people are super supportive, and we help each other out because we are the smaller team in the company. So we need to get inspiration from someone else, or get inputs and everything. So I think people should just keep that in mind, that it's not only finance, it's also way more of looking at a business as a whole.
Thank you so much, Lina. Thank you for sharing your adventures, learnings, and insights. It's been great to talk to you again.
Thank you. That's fun. A lot of exciting stuff that we talked about. And yeah, I'm also looking forward to see how this whole career portfolio concept evolves, and how people actually take it to heart and use it. I mean, me, myself included. How are we going to figure it out?
Thank you for tuning in for the Marketeers Adventures podcast. I'm Ellie Nicolau, and I'll see you next time.